If your student wants to attend college but doesn't want to be loaded down with debt, I have a treat for you. This is the Homeschool Sanity Show, the episode where guest Kara Walker shares uncommon but practical tips for saving money on a college education. I'm Dr. Melanie Wilson, Christian psychologist turned homeschool mom and curriculum author. And this is the podcast helping you wave goodbye to worry and say hello to a happy homeschool. Hey, homeschoolers. I absolutely love chatting with homeschoolers. That's just one reason I wanted to interview Kara Walker. Kara graduated from college debt-free and is now on a quest to help other students do the same with her podcast, Money and Mental Peace, and her online course, The Debt-Free College Blueprint. She is a 20-something Christian entrepreneur, amateur snowboarder, and recovering overachiever. Kara enjoys goal setting, budgeting, and living a debt-free lifestyle and wants to help you do the same. Kara is absolutely delightful. If you have a college-bound or finance-interested teen, have them listen to this episode with you. You won't be disappointed. Kara, thank you so much for joining me here on the Homeschool Sanity Show. I was hoping that we could start by having you introduce yourself to us. Tell us a little bit more about you and your family.
Yeah, definitely. So, hi, thank you for having me on. It's a personal connection because I had to learn homeschool sanity myself. I generally do this kind of little mini bio. My name is Kara Walker. I graduated from college debt-free. I'm now on a quest to help others do the same with my podcast. And I like to tell people I'm a 20-something Christian entrepreneur, amateur snowboarder, and recovering overachiever. Still getting there, you know? And I love goal setting, budgeting, living a debt-free lifestyle. I'm a total nerd in that way and I love it. And I just want to help others in this realm do the same. And then you said about homeschool family history, is that right?
Yes, well, I would love to know if you know why your family chose to homeschool originally.
Sure. So actually my mom is a teacher. So I think that gives a good... Not saying you have to be a teacher to homeschool. I'm saying I think it gives a good positive light to her being like, the schools aren't always the best place or uplifting or helpful or all this other stuff, even though she's a teacher and she was supporting that. So I think it depends on the person. In our particular instance, I was a very anxious child. I was having a hard time going to school. There was separation anxiety. And yes, there's a time to just be working through that, you know, but my parents decided to try it out to see what was best for me really young. It was first grade. I had gone to kindergarten and some of first grade, but first grade started to homeschool and I just thrived. You know, there's definitely a time to just learn it and suck it up and whatever, but I was 6, you know, and they were let's try this. And I loved it. And it was very much so a unique, tailored reasoning for me as their child. Nowadays, if I'd hope to have kids, I'd probably want to homeschool. It's very connected to just how wacky some of the school indoctrination is and other things. Depends on the school, you know. But at that instance, it was more parents really considerate of me as a growing child and how I would respond best and learn. And I really appreciate them doing that. So we started, I say we, I was doing it. They started homeschooling me early on, but we got connected with homeschool groups. I went on field trips. We did quote unquote school plays. You know, we had Christmas parties, we did all the things. We had play dates. And as I got up to high school, I won't do the whole story if you want to ask certain things, but if I got up to high school, I did co-ops. There was a point that both of my parents worked and I basically just did classes and studies with other homeschoolers. So I still was it prepared me so much for college and maturity level and all this stuff. And plus, if I was tired and hormonal, I could take a nap in the afternoon. Let's be honest, that's amazing. So they were just really open to I think it was more around me particularly. I just did have a hard time with school at first, but also just I think my mom felt confident to do it too because she was a teacher, and I know not everyone out there feels confident in that way. You do not have to be a teacher already to homeschool your kids, but yeah, that's the gist of it. And I'm really glad they did because I thrived with it.
Well, that's fantastic. And then when did you decide that you really wanted to go to college and that you wanted that to be a debt-free endeavor?
So I will mention this real quick. I actually did go to middle school. It was just what happened in my life. I wanted something different. I was feeling more confident in myself. And then actually my mom ended up getting a job at the school. That wasn't the original plan. So like I knew I could like go to school and handle school and classes and whatever. And I think that tied into like the co-op stuff when I went back to homeschooling in high school, opened up for like feeling like I could do college. You know, that's one thing because I do this with a business like college. I talk about college, and I'm here to tell you college is unnecessary. It's great. I didn't say it's not good. It's fantastic, but it's not necessary to have a quality life. You can do other things or trade school or start a business or whatever, but it's an awesome opportunity. But I'm not dissing college either. Do you know what I mean? So I went into it because I liked education, I liked school, and I wanted to do that next step. I didn't feel like my parents were like, the only way to have a good life and for us to love you is you go to college, you know, and it was a desire of that sort, and kind of just like a personal, I don't know, I like the goals. I'm honestly harder on myself than my parents are on me, so I just wanted that goal. So, and then you had said doing it debt-free. Okay, so when I was like 15 or 16 or so, one of my math classes that I did for like math credits did a personal finance class. And it was actually Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. And I was just like inspired. I was like, wait a minute. You mean if I do this in debt-free life and start investing early and all this other stuff, I can be a millionaire? You know, and the whole course isn't just around that. It's that mental peace and financial peace around your life. But just that part was just fascinating because you think of that as some far off thing, you know? And so I was like, I wonder what I could do to like start college like this. And I don't know, I got hooked on it. Like my parents are good with money, and I tell people I'm fanatical with money because it's fascinating to me. It's not that I feel like I pressured or I have to. It's just fascinating. So, you know, I was in high school. I saved my emergency fund. I started looking at stuff with college, and I wanted to do it because I wanted to be able to graduate and then just go whatever best direction was out there. You know, I just wanted to not feel like I had to get just the only job offered to me because to pay off debt if I didn't enjoy it. And I'm not saying people can't have a fantastic life or experiences if they have student loan, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people just don't know that it's possible. And so I kind of just, at the last couple years of high school, I just kept listening to Dave Ramsey content, kind of binging it. You know, I loved that. And I was just like, I want to graduate debt-free. Like, that's my goal. And so I think that's something homeschool connected made me my own researcher and my own learner and my own, you know, I'd go to my parents about an idea or a topic someone brought up, and they'd be like, okay, go research it, you know, learn about the world. Like, we'll talk to you about it too. And also you shouldn't, you know, go research how to do crime. I don't know. But I mean, like, you know, it's just a great opportunity. And so I just kind of developed my own interests outside of my parents. And thankfully, it was not crime. It was budgeting. So that's me.
That is cool. That is cool. And you are not the first young person I have interviewed for this podcast who has that mentality, approach to learning and life. And I agree with you. I think it is something about homeschooling that encourages that in our kids. And it's one of the many reasons that I'm super passionate about homeschooling. So I love that that you got that burning desire to graduate from college, not just debt free, but to be in a good place financially, throughout your life. It sounds like you really caught that passion for that.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very cool. So now I want to talk with you about what approach did you use to paying for college? So I would love for you to tell your personal story.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for asking. So the first step was honestly, I just purposed to not get loans. And, I know that just sounds simplistic, whatnot, but just because I wanted it so bad, but also I didn't know exactly what I wanted to study yet. So it was kind of easy to be like, okay, don't get loans for something you don't know what you want to study. So it wasn't too hard for me to purpose that, but literally it was like, if I didn't have money, I wasn't going that semester. That was my mindset. Everyone can decide how they do it on their own. That's for my story, And so I started with testing out of classes. There are some stuff called CLEP tests and DSSTs. You're nodding like CLEP test, college level examination program, other things where I basically would study on my own. But this is from homeschooling, right? I actually studied with a fellow friend who was a homeschooler. And right out of high school, we studied CLEPs together and we went and took them. And then when we passed, we went out to eat after, or we got frozen yogurt. It was fun. Like she was my study buddy, and we basically homeschooled college together for a little while. I did that for a couple years, and I actually got, so I did end up getting an associate's degree and then a bachelor's. So I got half of my associate's degree for $600 testing out of classes. And that was I was still just in graduation party money. I wasn't paying anything, loans or out of my pocket, whatever. But now I'm here to tell you, anyone listening to this, there's another level I didn't even know then. There's a company called Modern States. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, that have study guides and then for CLEP tests and then provide voucher programs where if you pass it, they will reimburse you the funds. So you can do a full freshman year of college for free. If your student can study on their own or study with a buddy or something. That's so helpful for it could be anyone. You don't have to be homeschooled, but it could so helpful for homeschoolers who know how to learn on their own pace. So you can do a year or two of college for free just testing out of classes. That's the first step. Beyond that, I actually started at my community college. Since I didn't know what I wanted to do, I was working, so that's saving money. And then I took one night class. And that was still from graduation party money. And then I actually ended up getting a full ride choir scholarship to our community college. We have an amazing, it's kind of random and unique fine arts programs at our college. There's full ride band scholarships, full ride choir scholarships, whatever. That's not always the case everywhere. So I got tuition paid. Then I became a writing fellow, which is basically a writing tutor, but it's a special program. And I'm just doing kind of the point by point. There's a lot that goes into each of these, but I became a writing fellow. And the point of that is you get a free class. But since I had my tuition paid for, they just gave me a gift card to the bookstore. So then I had all my books paid for and supplies. And so then I joined an honor society through for 2-year colleges, community colleges. It was $60 to join, and you're like, well, is it worth it? Well, it depends. Look at what the perks are or scholarships. So when I transferred later to my university, I got $3,000 a year from a scholarship with that group. So $60 to join became worth it, But I'm getting ahead of myself, actually. What I ended up doing next was there was an articulation agreement, they called it, between the community college and the university I ended up going to, and where they had a partnership, and you could finish so much of your degree at the community college and then so much of it at university. Well, they had a 2/3 thing where I do 2/3 of my program at the at community. I'll say it that way to make it easier to tell apart. And also I was doing a math minor, so I did like all my math classes at the community college. So basically I was still in the full ride tuition scholarship, doing classes for my university degree that I had made sure with advisors that it would transfer. Like that's always the key here.
Uh-huh.
Talking about CLEP tests, community college, I'm just doing bird's eye view right now, but I was making sure everything transferred before I agreed to it. Then I transferred to the to Eastern Michigan University is where I went to the university, got some transfer scholarships. One was with GPA, one was with that honor society, and there were a little bit of things here and there I'd pay some cash for, or like for books or whatever, because I had been working. I never worked full time and did school full time, but I did like part time school, full time work, full time school, part time work, whatever. Actually, sometimes I speak in third person. Kara needs to stop. I forgot about one point. Before I went to the university, I still wasn't 100% what I wanted to like finalize, because you have to, even like if I do like a business degree, you have to decide, okay, what part of it. I actually did a pause and did like a year and a half like internship with the National Park Service. So that was like life skills growth, and they gave an education award. They didn't call it a scholarship. Why did they have to be weird? They called it an education award. It was through AmeriCorps, which a lot of people have heard of, and that's life experience and like money for college. So that kind of like buffered the coffers, I guess you could say, of like more money for when I went to Eastern. And it was totally life experience and resume building. Like I met so many people. I organized a volunteer program. I wrote a federal grant proposal that we received $25,000 for. Like
Wow.
it's just like I guess I'm thinking anyone who's listening, your kid. Like there are some students who, if they don't keep finishing through college, they won't go back. But like for me, I would have, and so to not freak out, like it's often great to take some sort of gap year and do these life skills. And I have National Park Service on my resume. So okay, so I went to the university, had all these transfer scholarships, the Honor Society scholarship, the AmeriCorps Education Award, and I was taking longer to go through college because I wasn't getting loans. That's just my story. Not only that, I hadn't known what I was studying. That's why I kind of took that gap year. So because of that, I was finishing college and I was 24. Okay. At that point, and I believe it's still the case, but if anyone's listening and it's a few years down the road, you'd better check. At that point, 24 years old, you're an independent student. So in the FAFSA, your parents.
I already know.
Oh,
I
you
already
know.
know what you're going to say.
On the FAFSA, they
Okay.
only count my income. They don't count my parents' income. Now, I was working, and I was paying for school. I was paying for my car. But my parents were very sweet and just let me live at home. And so that was how they were blessing me. But then I paid for all this other stuff. Well, now I'm 24, and the government's like, wow, you're poor. You're below the poverty level. Let's give you a Pell Grant. And then I got a state grant, and I did not even plan that. Like, I don't know about all your listeners if they feel this way, but for me, like, that was God. Like, just like, okay, let's just arrange this works together, and then here's some other money. I did pay some of my own cash still, for books and other stuff, and definitely gas. But there was a semester that I had more money already sent to the school that the school actually gave me a check, and I used it for gas money.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and that's just what kind of piled up. But that was also because I let myself do it slowly. And you better believe it was hard. I felt like I was behind. I felt like I didn't
Yeah.
finalize my bachelor's until I was 25, and I felt like I was behind in everything. But I feel awkward saying this sometimes because it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but just to show how it's possible is what I want to say. Even though I graduated like 25, I had saved all this money from working. I graduated debt-free with $10,000 in the bank. Like I was set to
Wow.
start a business. So I started a business and started investing for retirement, like right after I graduated. I was that nerdy kid. I was like, yes, I got my Roth IRA set up. Like I was like all excited. I'm like, whenever I can put more money in, I'm all excited because the compound interest, like that's if you're homeschooling your kids and not teaching them compound interest, like that's the eighth wonder of the world there. So basically, basically, that's how it was. It was random stepping stones. I had no idea what I was doing ahead of time. It was just like I had decided to not do college unless if I had something to pay for it, and it took longer, and it might not take longer for you. If anyone's listening and concerned on that, that's why I have a podcast to tell you about it, so that you can do it faster. Like I learned, like I had to. Oh, and one funny story you might like. I don't know how much time we have to graduate college. I had been in college like almost like 7 or 8 years. They're like, we need your high school transcript. I was like, I was homeschooled. They gave me a big like issue on like, but oh, you have to have your state test you and all this. And I was like, that's not actually the rules in our state. And like all this stuff on like transcripts. And I'm like, man, I've been in school for so long. What's happening? And they're like, well, we need something from your parents and it wasn't right. You need the teacher to sign it. I was like, my teacher was my mom. What they ended up just needing is a list of the classes, the quote unquote classes I took in high school, and my mom's signature. And they're like, okay, you can graduate college now. I don't know.
How
It was weird.
strange.
It was weird. But I guess the moral of this story is it's possible, and also check everything. Check that stuff transfers, keep everything in writing, keep things in email, make sure you still have some sort of transcript or know that you can graduate and all the things. So now I'm going to take a breath now because that was that was my long bird's eye view of what happened for college.
Well, really, that story is just fascinating and inspiring. So I absolutely love that you're sharing this story. So let me ask you a quick question. So what did you end up with a degree in?
Sure. So I have a bachelor's of business administration with a marketing focus. And then I got a mathematics minor, because I was going to be a math teacher, and then I switched that around. But I'm like, I had calculus 3. I gotta have something for this to show that I did all this work. So yeah, I have math minor, and then I started business after. And let me tell you as well, I probably learned 10% about business in college and 90% figuring it out on my own. Like I still think college is important and super beneficial, but like, yeah, people can just go start a business too. But I had to have it for my business because my business is how to graduate debt free, so.
Right. So, and yeah, and I love your perspective. And I actually did an episode of this podcast not too long ago. I will put it in the show notes about how we handled college for our kids. And I absolutely believe that college is optional, but if you want to do it, that there are ways to make it work for your family. So one thing I was going to add that I did not share in that episode was the fact that one of my sons was an RA, a resident assistant, when he was a sophomore in college. And that paid for his room, his board, his books, and a stipend in addition. And it's a very good thing to have on your resume because it shows leadership, responsibility, and it's something to check into for parents who are interested in sending their kids to school. I mean, it can save you a lot of money if, unlike you can't have your student live at home while they're in school.
Definitely both are viable, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
I love that
was
good for him.
Yeah, it was a huge savings, and in fact, we were paying for our other kids' college expenses, and he was very smart and said, "Hey, if I was working another job, I would be making the money. I would be able to save the money. So since I'm doing this, I'm saving you all this money. You two need to make it worth my while to do this. So we came to an agreement with him about how much that was worth it to us, because it really
Nice.
saved us a lot of money. But
Negotiation, and that's probably learned
yes,
from homeschooling, probably.
yes, exactly. All of my kids are very interested in money, finance, investing, being smart about saving money. They all have long-term savings already, even at young ages. So they are a lot like you. But I want to hear a little bit more about your business, probably when we're done talking. But what I would like to do now is have you kind of guide my listeners through this process. If they want to have their kids attend college and do it debt-free, what are some of your tips and advice for them to get started?
Sure. Well, let's imagine it this way so it's even less pressure. I have a suggestion that it can just be even if you're wondering if sending your kids to college but not sure. So it leaves it wide open. So I'm gonna imagine the kids. Let's just start kind of early and say someone's in like middle school-ish age, coming into high school. I would love for your listeners to go to the website Homeschooling for College Credit, literally called Homeschooling for College Credit. The lady who arranges it is a like advisor at Excelsior College. So there are different colleges that accept almost unlimited transfer credits. So I had told you how I had done that and tested out of classes, but there are like 3 colleges. It's that one, Thomas Edison State College, and I want to say like Baker College. I have it on one of my podcasts. I'll have to look. And basically, students can almost test out of a whole degree. So, that's not as applicable if you're going to be an engineer and you need like lab.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a friend who wanted to go to law school, but he's like, let me just get a political science degree. He lived at home. He was still like senior year and the year after of high school, and he got his bachelor's degree at 19 from just taking all of these tests and sending it to them and graduating. And then he went to Michigan State at like the youngest law school student or whatever. So anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Homeschooling for College Credit shows how there are different types of tests out there ranked in order of transferability, meaning they probably will go to a lot of schools, or they just will go to most schools, or they'll just transfer to some schools, like CLEP tests, DSSTs, and then all different types of testing. So what I would say is imagine this. Your kiddo is going like freshman year of high school, homeschooling. They're learning whatever. They're learning algebra. They're learning certain history. They're learning whatever. You might have your own curriculum for them, but check out this website and possibly like the CLEP test for that level or whatnot. And as like the final exam, for your student for that year or that semester or whatever, if they've already gone through Algebra 1 or they already went through some like business principles class, have them go take the CLEP test. And if you're doing it through Modern States, if the kid passes, it'll be for free. And basically your kid could start just learning homeschooling just however you're normally going to do it, just like with whatever curriculum you have, and checking out that it has, you can find what's on different CLEP tests, not, the exact questions, but like the content percentages. Just try to see if what they're learning kind of encompasses that, and then have them go take a test, and your kiddo could be graduating high school with 2 years of college under their belt for free. It could be all the
Mm-hmm.
prerequisites. It could be they're doing their English tests. There's even a CLEP speech class where you like test. You like speak into the microphone and then they test you later. I don't know. I didn't take that one. I don't know if they still have that. They have
Okay.
CLEP tests are like a lot of like the general education like prerequisites. And so some people are concerned like, well, I want my student to have the college experience, whatever. Like I
Mm-hmm.
still think they can and they can go on to stuff after that. But
Mm-hmm.
we're not stressing your kid out. We're not having them do
Mm-hmm.
extra college stuff in high school. I want your kid to have fun and live life and be responsible and all the things. It's just like you might as well try this out too. And it's low pressure if you can get it for free, or even if you don't have an option for modern states, a CLEP test is about $100. Think of getting $100, getting 3 to 6 college credits. There are several CLEP tests I took that were 6 college credits I got for $100.
Oh,
So like
wow.
your student, depending on what age, but if someone's listening and they're freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, even just starting their senior year in high school, whatever you're teaching them or whatever curriculum they're doing, have them take a test after and see if they get college credit. That's how I would suggest starting. And then beyond that, maybe you're past that or whatnot. It's looking at colleges and pricing. It's looking at scholarship opportunities. It's grants. It's a variety of things. It's getting a student job. Like one thing I did, I got a student job on campus that was not super busy. I basically sat there, answered phones, but it was like brief. I'd answer phones and then I'd transfer people. And I sat there and did my homework. I got paid to do my homework. At one point, I worked at the student gym. I got paid to work out. Like, it's just like working smarter, not harder. Like, I also talk in my podcast certain websites to find really cheap textbooks. It's just, if they're in high school, there's all of these options at homeschoolingforcollegecredit.com. If they're past that, there's grants, scholarships, and weird hacks like cheap textbooks, rent textbooks, get paid to do your homework. Note taker, they pay, like, I was a note taker in class. They needed note takers for like a disability student. I was already in class. I was already taking notes, and I got paid to sit in class and give my notes, like a copy of my notes to another student.
Wow.
There are just so many weird hacks out there to get started. Yeah, that's what I would suggest.
And that's so fun. To me, you're like a couponer for college. That's so
Yay!
cool.
I should be in like, what is it? They're like an ultra coupon,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
show or something.
Right.
Coupon wars.
Yes. And I just wanted to say that where I am in St. Louis, Missouri, our community college, the dual enrollment tuition is so low that it is cheaper for me to have my student do a dual enrollment course for college credit, much cheaper than it would be for me to put them in a co-op class in my area.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah.
my kids, many of them have started college with, semesters worth of college credits because they've done that dual enrollment, and it's saved a lot of money to do that as
Good
well.
for you. And anyone listening too, I know our local community college, I think if they're still in high school, dual enrollment is free.
Wow.
So whoever's listening, that might be the case at your community college too. Maybe not yours exactly, but whoever else is
Right.
listening, there might be opportunities. Or there's something called middle colleges, which is not dual enrollment exactly, but they actually do high school on the college campus. Like, it's actually an accredited high school, but they slowly add in college classes. So that's a little more organized. They'll have prom, they'll have field trips. It's a little bit more a high school together than like homeschooling and dual enrolling. Either one. That's awesome. Good for you. That makes sense, because sometimes
Yeah.
co-op classes are kind of expensive.
Yeah, they really are. And you don't get college credit. So that is wonderful. I mean, you have given us a great place to start. So many good ideas. And then, you've already mentioned this, but and I know it can be intimidating. It really was for me, just overwhelming, the number of opportunities to get scholarships. But I had a child get a scholarship through work. I helped my friends' sons get scholarships through their credit union. I mean, crazy. You would never think of that. But don't discount any opportunities that you come across, because a lot of people just won't apply for those because they'll think, oh, well, I'll just get a loan, right? I won't worry about it. But it is definitely worth your while to check out those opportunities.
Definitely
So, well,
random
yeah,
scholarships. I have an
yeah.
episode about my cousin. My cousin won $55,000 in scholarships throughout his whole college career, and he did more of that than I did. Mine was almost like a stumbling through and grants and like an education award and cash and testing out. But he's just like, nope, I'm just going to apply for all these scholarships. So you can go find that episode. But yeah, there are some out there that it's so possible. Yeah.
Well, that is really exciting, and I think you've kind of set this up for us, Kara, like a challenge. And I know that there are a lot of homeschooled kids who would be up for it, up for the challenge of this. So cool. So tell us more about your business and where people can connect with you.
Sure, thank you. I just send everyone to the podcast. It's called Money and Mental Peace, and it's basically finding your path through college and graduating with no loans or debt whatsoever. I mean, we also talk about other debt. Like, I have suggestions on how never to have car debt, suggestions on how to never have credit card debt. Just so. Anyways, all of it there. So I started my business with finding scholarships for people because I was like, I don't want to work for anybody, and I know how to find scholarships. People will just pay me to find them scholarships. Not write them. That's illegal. They have to apply for them, but I would find them, middleman. But now what I do is I have all this free content on the podcast. So literally, I might not be the best business person for saying this, but you can just learn it all on the podcast. But if you need like hand holding and whatever, like I have coaching services, I have an online course that I sell that can walk people through it. So the podcast is just a place to find everything. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. And I just want to give you a little bit of a plug because I would say that there are a huge number of businesses like ours. I would include mine along with yours, where yes, you can get the content for free, but when you purchase like your course, what you're purchasing is convenience. You don't have to spend a lot of time going through all of Kara's episodes to try to figure out what you need to know and in what order to do things. And then, of course, you're also supporting a great young entrepreneur like Kara when you purchase her course. So I will have a link to her course in the show notes as well. And of course, to the podcast. Well, Kara, this was really delightful. And I am excited to see where God takes you on your journey with this. So I hope you will keep in touch with me.
Oh, I'd love to stay connected. That's awesome. Thank you so much for having me on and for letting me bug you to have me on.
It was my pleasure. To find the links to Kara's podcast and course, visit the show notes page at homeschoolsanity.com/debt-free. Have a happy homeschool week. Thank you for joining me on the journey to homeschool sanity. I would love to continue the conversation. You can find me on social media at Homeschool Sanity. And if you haven't heard it lately, let me remind you, you're doing a great job. This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.